At this point in time, I'm just running out of things to say. Nikola Jokic is ridiculous. He is straight up ridiculous. Now, to start the season, the Nuggets are only 3-2, and he's only averaging 24 points, 5 assists, and a ridiculous amount of rebounds. But that doesn't do him justice. We'll talk about why that doesn't do him justice in just a bit, but what does do him justice? Because I thought last year in which he won the MVP was damn near unanimous MVP, put up 26, 11, and 8, led his team to a top seed for the second year running, and was absolutely dominant against the Portland Trailblazers in the first round without Jamal Murray. Underwhelmed a little bit against the Suns, but he just didn't have any help against a very good Suns team. So, whatever, you can't really blame him. He wasn't absolutely terrible. He was just below Jokic's standards, which we're finding out is pretty much a level above every single player in the league. Yeah, that's what he is. So, I thought that would have given him the justice he deserves, but it doesn't seem like it. It seems like people are still taking this man for granted. I still think people aren't truly appreciating just how good Nikola Jokic is after being the best player in last year's regular season. And so far, I see no reason to suggest he hasn't been the best player in this year's regular season as well. I mean, who else is absolutely dominating a game like he did against Dallas today in 25 minutes while only putting up 11 points? That is not something many people in the league can do, putting up 11 points and absolutely dominating and dictating a game and making sure his team won after coming off an injury just a couple of nights before and going up against a Dallas team that were 3-1 heading into the game. You see what I'm saying? Like, he doesn't do things that are usual, and we need to start respecting that. Now, before I go any further, actually, and talk about what he's done this season and just Jokic in general, because I guess we have to talk about him because he's just that good. I know, it sucks to talk about arguably the best player in the NBA. It sucks. Absolutely sucks. But if you want to see more of that, drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you are new, or if you haven't subscribed, that would be much appreciated. But let's talk about it, because I did kind of undersell the stats at the start of the video, just to show that you can't always look at the box score stats, because Jokic has only played 40 minutes over the last 2 games, and in general, his minutes have been down because of those games. But he's also shooting 66% from the field and 45% from 3. 66% from the field and 45% from 3. But to go one step further, you know those 40 minutes that he's played in the last 2 games against Dallas and the Utah Jazz? Picked up an injury against Utah and then played against Dallas. Both teams that had a combined 1 loss heading into the game he played against them. Rudy Gobert, Defensive Player of the Year, and elite defense in Utah. In those 40 minutes, which is basically a game, he put up 35 points, 22 rebounds, 14 assists, shooting 65% from the field, and 4 of 6 from 3. So basically, he's put up those numbers in the equivalent of 1 game. So, it's just, I don't know what to say at this point in time. I really don't know what to say. It's only been 4.5 games for him so far to start the season, and he just looks as good. He looks better than last year already, which is crazy considering the numbers he put up and considering advanced stats, and just looking at what he did suggested it was one of the better seasons in NBA history last year. Yes, the numbers suggest it was one of the better seasons in NBA history, and it looks like he might have got better. Now, I'll get back to the Jazz game in a bit, because I think that just gives you an insight into Jokic in general, and I talk about this every single time I talk about him because I believe it's relevant, and I still don't see enough people talking about it. He elevates his game literally every single time he needs to. He does it against the big teams. He does it in the playoffs. Yes, but it's also just whenever he knows that he needs to score. I think back to last year against Sacramento, he scored like 25 points in the 4th quarter because his team couldn't get any offense. He knew against Utah he would need to score, so, he put up 24, 6, and 6 in 15 minutes, which is ridiculous. He was on track for a 50-point triple-double. Oh, and he only missed 1 shot in that period of time as well. He was on track for arguably the greatest game in NBA history. Like, he was on track for arguably the greatest game in NBA history before getting that knee knock, which, that's a shame. That's a shame. But he elevates his performance every single time. Rudy Gobert dropped 47 on him last year. Rudy Gobert this year, Defensive Player of the Year. The Jazz were undefeated heading into the game, and they ended up undefeated because he got injured. That's why, let's be honest, they would have won the game if he didn't get injured. It was trending that way. But he continues to elevate his game, and he just does it at such a level where his efficiency doesn't drop. That's the crazy thing as well. A lot of players, they might drop 35 points a night against the bigger teams and in the playoffs, but their efficiency might take a little bit of a hit. Jokic's efficiency seems to go up. He just seems to play better in literally every single aspect of the game when it's needed. And let's emphasize this as well. To start the season, I gave you those numbers. I've told you what he's done. Yeah, the Nuggets are only 3-2. Would probably be 4-1 if he didn't get injured. Let's be honest. I think they were going to beat the Jazz. But he's doing this without Jamal Murray, and Michael Porter Jr. has been nowhere to be seen. He's been nowhere to be seen. He's struggled, okay? He's struggled. Will Barton is his second option right now. The only player that's averaging over 13 points a game alongside Jokic is Will Barton. Shout out to Will Barton. He's a solid role player, but that's what he is. That's what he is. So Jokic is doing this without a star teammate, managed to dominate against the Phoenix Suns, against the Dallas Mavericks, against the Utah Jazz. These are all top teams in the Western Conference, and he just hasn't had any troubles to start the season, regardless of his teammates. Just to emphasize how important he is and pretty much how much he's carrying this team. He leads the team in points, assists, rebounds, field goal percentage, steals, three-point percentage. Well, Zeke Naji actually does, but he's taken like 2 threes, so that doesn't really count. But he leads the team in pretty much every single category imaginable. He's also improved defensively, which does deserve some credit as well, because now he can step up when he needs to. He can stay back in coverage. He's always been intelligent. He gets in the passing lanes, but he's just become a more agile and a more efficient defender. And they're the third best defense. That's actually what's led them to wins, kind of, in a way. We saw Aaron Gordon, who deserves some credit as well. This is a Jokic video, but Aaron Gordon played fantastic defense against Luka Doncic. Some other guys have stepped up there. But if you're just looking at the offense, and the only reason this isn't the worst offense in the league, because it would be, it's Jokic. This is a lottery team right now without Jokic. With Michael Porter Jr. playing the way he is and no Jamal Murray, they're rock bottom. And with Jokic, they'd probably be 4-1. That just shows the impact this man has had on this team and is just continuing to have. And it's being taken for granted, as I said in the title. No one's mentioning him in the best player in the world conversation. No one's saying it, even though last year he had the best regular season, and this year he's continued to he's been better. He's been better. The numbers are a little bit down because I mentioned he's just played less minutes, but if he hadn't had that knock, he'd be averaging like 30 points a game, like 13 rebounds, and like 6 assists on 66% from the field and 45% from 3. If anyone else was doing that, I'll be honest, like if LeBron James was doing that, we wouldn't hear the end of it. I know it's a different thing, and I'm not coming on here to say that, but you know what I'm trying to say? Jokic seems to just slip under the radar. There were people saying, oh, he was the worst MVP, the most forgettable MVP. It's like, well, because no one's talking about him, even though it's right there. He'll make a pass every game that is absolutely ridiculous, or a shot every game, or put up a stat line every game. I didn't see anyone talking about the fact he had 24, 6, and 6 in 15 minutes against the Utah Jazz on 8 of 9 shooting. Like, no one made a post about that. So that's why he's the most forgettable MVP. It's because no one's actually discussing it like they should be. And that's why we're taking it for granted. We're taking for granted that this man can pretty much go out there every single night and put up 30 points a game when he wants. And when he actually wants to, he'll put up 40 points a game. No, not what he wants to, when he needs to. When he actually needs to put up 40, he'll do that. He'll give you 15 assists. He'll control a game while only putting up 11 points like he did against Dallas in a game where, let's just look at the plus minus as well. Plus minus, it's not the absolute best stat, but it does give you a bit of an insight into just how important he is. And the Nuggets bench hasn't been great. So it's been a lot of Jokic as a starter, and then when he comes out, they lose the lead, and then he comes back in, and then they build the lead, and then it's a little bit of that kind of effect. That's been happening. But if you look at his plus minus, because we saw it against Dallas, he was on 5 fouls, they kept him in the game, and he led them to the win. But so far, he's been a plus 28 in a 12-point win against Phoenix, a plus 14 in a 6-point win against San Antonio. He was a minus 12 against Cleveland, wasn't his best game, also wasn't his worst game. He was okay, they just didn't have a very good game in general. And he was a plus 7 against Utah in a minus 12 loss, don't know why I said it like that, and a plus 26 against Dallas. You see the theme? The man is pretty much absolutely dictating games whenever he's on the floor, and whenever he's off the floor, well, the Nuggets are normally losing that lead. Luckily, he's just been so good that he's giving them a big enough lead that they can chip away at it when he's off the bench, and he'll come back in and just restore the lead or build on it, because he's just that good. Like I mentioned, against Dallas, he was on 5 fouls. They didn't take him out of the game because Dallas were on a run and Dallas had the momentum. And if they took him out of the game, they probably lose that game. If he sits the third quarter, there's a good chance they lose the game. They keep him in there, only ends up with 11 points, but he completely dictates the game. He makes sure everyone gets the right shot, and then they end up blowing out Dallas. It's just that kind of an impact. They go from, if he sits, they probably lose, to he stays in and they blow out a team. There's not really much else to say about Nikola Jokic. He's going to be playing the Timberwolves today, hopefully, because his durability has been amazing. He did pick up that knee knock, but he also only played 25 minutes against Dallas, so he should be good to go. But just continue to watch this man dominate, because I'm enjoying it. I've been watching the game so far, and although it might not get posted as often as it should, he's looking like an MVP level player again, and he's looking like arguably the best player in the league again, and this is without a supporting cast that is really adequate for what he's doing right now. If he had an adequate supporting cast, the league would be in shambles. The league would be in shambles. It already is, because the he's a freak. He's a freak. Okay, have a good day. Bye.